friends, welcome to my channel, welcome to my kitchen. Today we will be making white bread. Fresh homemade bread is always delightful, and you know exactly what you put in your bread. Now, starting out, I'm going to show you what I use to make this bread. Organic, unbleached. I got this at Costco. I'm going to use active dry yeast. I'm going to use some salt. Today I'm using kosher salt, just by choice, and some organic olive oil. We're going to also use some honey, which I did not pull yet, from the pantry, and a little sugar. Well, first we're going to prepare the yeast for the bread. We're going to use 4 cups of warm water. I already preheated this. So it's 4 cups of warm water. Not hot, but warm water. See if it's warm enough. Yep, it's warm enough. 4 cups of warm water to 2 tablespoons of active yeast. And I'm gonna put the water in this so it's warm. 2 tablespoons of active yeast, and you mix. Close it back properly, and you're gonna mix this. Now, a trick is to add a little sugar to activate the yeast quicker. So I'm just going to put 2 pinches of sugar, and I'm going to mix it. I'm going to pour it back into the measuring cup so that you can see how it gets frothy. And you're going to put it here, and then I'm going to rest it on top of this. I'm going to rest it on top of this cutting board because the countertop might be too cold for it. I'm going to mix it until it froths. And I'm going to let it sit for 10 minutes. Now the yeast has been activated, so you can see some frothing at the top. And I'm going to pour it in the mixing bowl. Activated. So now we are going to start the process. So we're going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. The bigger spoon is a tablespoon, so I just want to make sure my measurements are correct so we have no mistakes. So we're going to put 1 tablespoon of salt. We're going to put a 1/3 cup of olive oil. And I'm going to put the olive oil first before I put the honey, because the trick is if you pour the oil first, it prevents the honey from sticking to the cup. Put one a little bit more. And then I'm going to put a 1/3 of a cup of honey. This recipe calls for 1/3 of a cup of honey. And see, the yeast is really activated now. It's frothing up really well, so we should not have any problems with this bread. See? Now if you look, usually honey is sticking inside the spoon. Pretty much all of it is out. Rest that there. I don't like a mess, so I'm gonna clean up as I go. Put my hand on this damp rag. I'm gonna close the honey and close everything. And now we're gonna start adding the flour. Now I usually have a smaller container for the flour, but the smaller container has some other flour from before, and I wanted to use fresh organic flour to make this bread, so I'm going to take it from my bulk container. This container is food grade, and it has a cover. I like it because of the cover. It has a gamma lid, so you can actually seal the container so nothing can go in there, no weevil, no kind of bug can get in your container. And when you're done, you can seal it airtight, and then when you're ready to open it again, you can unscrew it. You don't have to fight the lid to get it off. All right, so now we're gonna add the flour, and I'm just gonna take the flour directly from this container. So it calls for, let me bring it a little closer. So it calls for 5 cups of flour. Let me just mix this a little bit first. Lock it in. I'm going to start adding the flour, and it calls for up to 5 cups of flour and more added if need be. Oops, so I'm going to mix it. I don't need it that fast. We're going to mix it. Now this is just a regular KitchenAid cake mixer. I'm using it today because it makes it easier for the batter to be mixed. However, there's a better mixer for bread, which makes things a lot easier. I'm gonna put 2 cups at a time because it's pretty liquidy. And as we proceed, you will see why it's better to use the other mixer, but at the moment I do not own one. I do plan to get one in the very near future, so we're gonna make what we have work. So here you're gonna have it mixing. Now, while this mixes, I want to discuss with you why I started to make bread. As you know, the bread we get in the stores, a lot of times they are not very healthy. And so, and the price of bread has gone up tremendously, and I just thought it cannot be that hard. I can make my own bread at home, and while I do so, I know exactly what ingredients I'm putting in my bread to make it as healthy as possible. I do not eat a lot of bread. However, I have a 20-year-old son who enjoys bread, so I'm making it mostly for him. I'll have a couple slices here and there. I'm gonna add another cup of flour, so that's gonna be 4 cups of flour. And the whole trick is to get this so consistently mixed that the dough will start falling from the side of the container, and that's how you know for sure when it's totally ready. Until then, you just keep adding flour until you get it to the consistency you need it to be. Now I'm using a regular KitchenAid, which is a great machine. I usually use this to make my cakes and cookies and stuff like that. And I'm using the dough hook on this machine. I'm gonna add another cup of flour, and you know they want us to do a cup at a time. So I'm gonna add another cup. We start the machine. Now I'm going to keep adding until the dough becomes smooth enough and start pulling away from the side of the container, and you'll see what I'm talking about, and that's when you know for sure that it's almost ready and ready for kneading. I've done this about 3 times, 2 times, 3 times, and I've had a couple failures, but I did have a really good success. And it's just important to follow the recipe as it states you should. And the bread was very, very tasty. I do have pictures of my failure, and I also have a picture of my success, so I will link them to this video. Sorry about that. I should move these so you can see how it's mixing in the container. I'm going to lift the lid and use my spatula knife to remove the flour from the side that is not mixing in as well as it needs to help the dough to form how I want it to form, because as I said, this is a regular mixer, so it needs a little bit of assistance in the mixing process. Let me add another cup. It's coming together nicely, and we're going to add 1 cup at a time. Now, making my own bread, it's pretty inexpensive. It's pennies to the dollar compared to buying a loaf of bread in the store. Now, we used to buy a bread from Costco that is organic, and for 2 loaves, I think it's around $5.99. But if you buy the same bread in like a Publix, you're paying maybe about $6.99 for 1 loaf. In Costco, I think it's about $6.99 when last I checked. Maybe actually maybe it's a little bit more than that, but I know for sure in Publix that same loaf is $6.99. So hey, why not try and do it ourselves if time permits, and have fun while you're doing so. Now, I do plan to get the other mixer, which makes this process a whole lot easier, and at that time when I purchase it, I will show you how it works by making some more bread, and we can compare the difference between that machine and this machine, and you're gonna see how it's a whole lot easier with that other mixer. But until then, we will continue with what we have. Now I'm going to show you I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly through the glass bowl. However, you can see that it's getting thicker. And I'll show you that in a second, how much thicker it has gotten. So you have an idea of how it looks while you're doing it. And this is how it looks now. It's still a little bit runny. We're gonna go back to mixing, and you will see how it changes as it mixes. Yeah, so this recipe pretty much just uses maybe 7 ingredients: water, active yeast, a bit of granulated sugar, white or brown, it doesn't matter, a dash to activate the yeast, and then we use salt, olive oil, honey, and flour. Pretty simple, but the bread, it comes out very, very tasty. And it requires patience, of course. It's getting there, guys. I think a couple more cups, we should have it almost where we need it. It's coming together, so it's trying to ride up on the dough stick. So I'm gonna stop for a minute and try to keep it off of the stick as much as I possibly can. And that is the problem with using this kind of mixer to make the bread. It comes up on the dough stick and tries to get up even further than the dough stick. But we're gonna improvise until we can get another mixer that's more suitable for dough mixing. So we started with 5 cups, and as you can see, I have put in more than 5 cups. I think this is about maybe my 6th or 7th cup. See, it's coming up now. It's coming together. So I'm gonna stop it again, and see, it's, as you can see, it's getting more together. More, the dough is mixing more consistently together and becoming tighter and tighter as we're getting towards the end of this mixing. But this is the tedious part of the whole process, using this kind of mixer. But I've used it quite a few times, and the bread comes out just the same. It just makes the job a little bit more tedious. But we're almost at the finish line. Almost at the finish line, guys. I think 1 more cup should do it, and then we're gonna do it a little bit longer. I mean, it takes a little time, but I want you guys to see a nice bread. So I'm gonna stop, fix the, take it off the stick as much as I can, and mix it some more, so until it's totally consistent to what I want. But this is the hardest part, guys. But I was so happy to show you this recipe. I could not wait until I bought the other mixer, the dough mixer. I said I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna show my YouTube friends how to use this, use what they have to get what they want. We have to learn how to improvise and make what we have work. With the rising cost of living and everything else, we can't buy everything that we would, to our heart's desire, but we can definitely make what we have work. And then we're gonna do the kneading. So see, it wraps up on it so easily because it's almost there. And it's coming away from the side of the container, guys. So guess what? We're almost at the end of the road with this mixing. All right, so I think we can almost take this off. It looks a little messy, but it is okay. But just know that this entire machine was thoroughly clean when I was making it. Every area was wiped and washed. So even up in this area is not dirty. I made sure I cleaned it because I knew this was going to happen. It's very difficult to prevent it from happening. When you're about to make your bread, be sure that your hands are clean. I'm very anal about cleanliness. I like when things are nice and clean, so make sure you have on no jewelry and make sure your hands are clean because you will be using your hands a lot while doing this. I'm gonna add a little bit more flour to make sure it doesn't stick anymore, and then I'm gonna start the kneading process. Okay, now we're gonna stop, and look at this, it's all stuck to the thing. So now I'm gonna remove it, and then we're gonna start mixing the dough on the counter. Now this counter has been thoroughly cleaned before. This container was washed top to bottom. That was right here before I put the products in there. And see now, once I put a little bit more flour, it's actually coming off the machine and off the hook easier because the dough is now consistent with what I am hoping for. And so I'm going to get it off the hook, and I'm going to get it on the counter. Getting a little bit warm in here, so I might have to turn on the AC. Alright, so now I'm gonna detach the base of this. I cannot stand sticky hands, but it's a part of the process. Alrighty. Alright, I'm going to turn the dough out on here. Now, because of the kind of bowl I'm using, it is not as easy as if I had the dough mixer that I hope to have. I did tell my husband I would like that as a gift. So now I'm gonna lightly put a little bit more flour on the counter, and we're gonna mix this dough so it's more consistent. Some of this are little clumps because that mixer is not, but, and we're gonna do this for 5 to 8 minutes. So honestly, it is not very difficult, guys. It's not very difficult, and I hope each and every one of you will try this recipe at home. I have been doing a lot of research on dough. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I tried this one, and by far it has not been disappointing. I will try to do other recipes in the near future, but I think before I venture out, I will get that other dough mixer first. But let me tell you, when you make your own stuff at home, it is so so pleasing. And it really does make your home smell lovely when you bake this bread. It gives the home a nice smell. Now I'm gonna put this in a container for about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes to rise in a big container. We're supposed to put this in. So I'm gonna get a bigger bowl. I think I prefer this one because it should rise to like twice the size. You have to be sure you grease the sides of your container. You can grease the sides with just cooking spray. This particular cooking spray I'm using is olive oil. And you lift the dough and you place it in here. And it should rise to twice the size in about 30 to 45 minutes. And you cook it, you cover it with a nice clean cloth. And these I just put out before I started it, so. And you put it to rise for 30 to 45 minutes. So now I'm gonna restart my timer. Yeah, let's grease the pans. I'll put some parchment paper down. Just so that the flour doesn't get on the pans. I have pre-cut the lining for the pans. You don't have to use lining, but I like to use lining because it keeps the pan cleaner and the bread doesn't stick. It shouldn't anyway, but so this amount of bread should give us about 3 loaves of bread. So now I've washed these pans and I have dried them, and now I'm going to grease the pans. Now this mixture of bread, or this amount I've made, should give us 3 loaves, and the pan size is 9 by 5. I am gonna dry the pans again just to make sure there's no water in there, because I washed them thoroughly earlier, and just want to make sure that they're nice and dry. And I'm gonna spray the pan. Okay, this particular sprayer kind of gives out a lot of oil, so I'm gonna use a piece of paper towel to just, soak up some of the oil that's in the pan. We don't need excess oil. And then I can actually make sure it is consistently covering all sides and the bottom of the pan. And then I just like to put a little bit of grease paper in the bottom of the pan. So I've pre-cut the grease paper. This one goes in that one. And I just put that in the bottom of the pan. Now I'll put these to the side while I wait on the dough to rise. Now once the dough gets out, we're gonna go back to kneading it some more and putting it in the pan. So guys, now that we have waited the 45 minutes for the dough to rise. Now see, it has gotten bigger. It hasn't come up all the way on the pan because this pan is kind of broader. And now you're supposed to punch it down to get rid of the excess air bubbles. So I'm gonna do that. Of course, my hands are clean. I made sure of that. And we're gonna punch it down. Punch down the dough. After I punch it, oh, there we go. See, you can see when I punch it down. So you know, in making bread, you have to make sure your hand is very, very clean. And then we're gonna turn it out on the, let me lightly flour the surface again. And my hands are a little bit greasy because I have to spray the side of the pan. Hope I didn't put too much. Let me put some to the side so it's not too much. And punch it down a little more. And then I'm gonna turn it out on here. And then we're gonna knead again to get rid of the excess air. We can actually hear some of the air bubbles popping. I have to flatten it out a little bit. Good. And then I'm going to try to divide it into 3 equal portions as best as I can. All right, so let's try and do that. I do not have a dough cutter, so as I've said before, you improvise. And I'm going to use my regular knife to cut the dough. And it will do just fine. There's one piece. Second piece. I'm going to try and see if they're about the same. This one feels a little light. Take a piece from here, add to this one. You know, to make it easier, if you have a scale, you can weigh it. If I can find my scale. My scale was previously clean, but I'm gonna wipe it. Make sure there's no dust on there, and I am gonna weigh it. And I have some loose paper here, and the paper weighs nothing, so it's at 0 pounds. Let's see how much this weighs. That's 1 pound and 11 ounces. Let's see how much this weighs. 1 pound and 13 ounces, and this one is 1 pound and 12 ounces. So I could take a little bit from this, put it on this, and they're pretty close. That's good enough for me. And now we have them all separated into 3 equal parts. I'm gonna reflour the counter, and we have to knead some more to get rid of air pockets. All right, now we're gonna, we kneaded it and we kneaded it, so we're gonna press it out as much as we can. No, let me knead it a little more. I'm gonna roll it a little bit, need a little more flour, it's getting a little bit sticky. We're gonna press it out to try and get out as much of the air as we can. This is also helps to get rid of the excess air in the dough. We're gonna push it down as much as we can. And you can actually, this to the side, you can actually measure the pan. You know, try and stretch it as broad as you can. Like this. And just push it with your fingers, and that helps to get rid of the air pockets as well. And then we're gonna roll it up as tight as we can. And in this area now we're going to pinch it together so it looks more consistent. Pinch it together, we're going to roll it out. Then we're going to drop it. And that helps to get rid of the excess air in the dough also. It's nice and smooth, so it takes a good shape in the pan. And I'm gonna put one of my doughs in the pan. And this loaf is complete. And it will rise into the shape of the pan. And I'm gonna do the next one. Now, I'm almost done with the loaves. Let me turn the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit to get the oven preheated. And while that is warming up, I will baste the top of the loaves with some butter. Here's my butter in the butter container, and I have a brush. It's really a basting brush, and I'm going to take some of this butter. This is organic butter. I try to do non-GMO because you know you are what you eat, and we're trying to have a healthier lifestyle, a healthier way of eating. So I'm going to take some of the butter and I baste the top of the bread while the oven is being preheated. Now, as you can also see, while I was waiting on the bread to rise, I did some cleanup. I cleaned up the mixer, the cake mixer, and I washed some of the containers so that when you're done cooking, baking, whatever you're doing in the kitchen, you do not have a lot to do after the process is done. Because at that time you're gonna feel a little bit more tired and not want to do it. So while the bread was rising, I decided to clean up some of the stuff as it baked. Now the bread is now ready for the oven. So I'm waiting for the oven to start. Now at this point, you're gonna bake the bread for approximately 30 minutes. And so I will put on my timer as soon as I put them in the oven, and then we'll wait for them to bake. Now guys, it's exciting, but if you're not careful with what you do, you can mess up really easily. I've had successes and I've had failures, and I will link the video or the pictures of my failures in the past as well as my successes. And so far this round looked like it will be a good success, or a great success. So we're waiting for the oven to warm up a little bit, I do not put it on the convection oven. I put it on the regular oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll put the timer on for 30 minutes. I will not open the oven while it's being baked. I will turn the light on in the oven and check it that way, just to prevent any errors in the process. I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope you will also try to make your own bread. It was my pleasure. And as we wait for the final result, you know, we should all think about trying to go back to the days of old when we actually processed our own foods, made our own bread, made our own sauces, all of that. We need to try to go back to that, because that was the healthier, better way of eating. And remember, as a healthcare provider myself, you are what you eat. And we should all think about that now, because everything is GMO. So we should try as best as we can to go back to the old-fashioned ways of doing things. Of course, using the technologies we have. Back in the day, they had to use their hands to do everything. Now we have mixers, we have all these fancy equipments to, you know, to bake and cook. Back in the days, they didn't have these things, but they did make it work and took care of their family very well. And these people, like my great-grandmother who lived till she was 94, my grandmother, they did a lot of these things by hand, but they end up healthier. They didn't have all the health problems that we now face in the world. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to try and start doing things from scratch at home. Now, the oven should be well heated. Yes, and now we can put the bread in the. Now remember, when you're handling the oven, to be careful, make sure you use your pot holders. And I will put them equally spaced in the oven. And here we go, we await the final result. Now guys, the 30 minutes is over. I just took the bread out of the oven. Here are 3 beautiful loaves of bread. And now I'm gonna take the bread out of the pan and put it on the rack, and then I will glaze it. I'm gonna do it this way so I don't burn myself. See, look at the nice color on the bottom of the bread. And there's the entire bread. So there we have 3 beautiful loaves of bread. Warm. And you know what? I'm gonna use a fork with this because it kind of feels awkward to me. I'm gonna use this piece of I cut the butter, and I'm gonna rub this on the top of the bread. Glaze the top of the bread. I wish you were here to smell it. This kitchen, this house, it smells so good with nice fresh bread. Oh, the smell of bread. It's fantastic. So I think this was a success, guys. I'm gonna let the butter soak in a bit, and then I'm gonna cut one of them so that you can see it and even try it and see us taste it. I'll call my kids to come and taste it. And there we have it. Our home-baked, fresh white bread. So after you take the bread out of the oven and you put it on the rack, you leave it there to cool. After basting it with the butter. And I am gonna cut one of them because I like warm bread with butter. So I'm just waiting for the butter to soak in a little bit, and then I'm gonna cut it. And I will call my kids to test it. I'm gonna cut it on this sheet. With a bread knife. Trying to find the right size knife. We're gonna cut it like this now. It should give us a nice clean cut. And I hope you enjoyed this time with me, and I hope you will actually try these recipes at home. It gives me great joy when you work hard at something and you get great results. Alright, I'm gonna cut one of these bread. I'm gonna cut this one. Move this over, and I'm gonna cut this bread for you to see. It's still warm, but there we go. There it is. I can cut another slice. Here we have a nice bread, and I'm gonna put a little piece of butter on this one and try it. I'll put some butter on there and try it. So good, so nice, so fresh. Nice texture and consistency. As promised, I said I would show you the success and the failure. Well, here are the 3 failed loaves, and this happened due to not using enough yeast. So it is important for you to follow directions carefully. God be with you.